Hello, it's Charles Fockaert on the road with Charles Fockaert, December 26, 2018. I welcome all of you. This video is on why I decided to install a photovoltaic system on my 1977 Mini Winnie, which I call the mobile cabin. And I'm going to go through and show you what equipment I bought, what panels I bought, and why I bought them, and etc. But before we go there, I want to say that what I had before the system installed was, of course, the i2000 Honda Sin generator, and I had two AGM batteries, one 66 amp hours and one 55, which I believe adds up to 121 amp hours, which anyone that knows about batteries in an RV living, that's not very many amp hours, because you really only get to use half of that. You don't want to draw your batteries down below 50%, especially AGM or other non-lithium batteries. So I'm learning as I go, and AGM batteries were better than the other batteries I had, which were, what do they call them, lead acid filled, because I could put the AGM batteries inside the house because they're sealed and they don't leak any poisonous or harmful fumes or gases. So that's what I have. I have 121 amp hours. I already know that those batteries aren't adequate for what I have planned for this vehicle. And so I'm already planning in the installation of the solar system to account for a larger capacity of batteries to store the energy I get from the system. So I'm going to keep that in mind as we go. So that's what I have, and let me go show you what I did. Alrighty, here's the Mini Winnie, and we're going to put those three panels on the roof of that Mini Winnie right there. And I'm in the parking lot over by the casino at Blue Water, just outside of Parker, Arizona. So these are 100-watt panels, and you can see here I bought them at Renogy. I think it's important here to bring it up is that I'm not sitting in my driveway of my home or near my shop where I have electric and all that, and I'm in, but I wanted to stay near town because I have a PO box here and they ship everything. There's a lot of problems. It took quite a while to get everything here, and I'm not going to go into all the details, but the panels got shipped and then got returned, and then they got shipped again, and then they didn't come with all the parts, and there was things that were shipped and I had to ship back, etc. And so plan ahead. Weeks ahead, and get everything all together. I did my what they're calling research. You're hearing that word a lot now, aren't we? Research. I did my research. So I've been honing up on the volts and the force and the amps, the current, and amp hours. And, you know, so I have an understanding about what's going on and what I'm doing here, because I used to wire my own homes and apartments when I built them, but this is different. This is both 12 volt and 120 if you get an inverter. And I did get an inverter and it didn't work. And I told them I wanted my money back, and yeah, again, plan ahead. The inverter is now working. We took it apart. There was fuses were blown. I'll get into that a little bit later. Let's get back to the 3-panel system I'm going to put on the roof of the mobile cabin. The heart of my solar system, and probably any other solar system, is this controller right here. I chose the MPPT controller by Renogy, and it's a 40 amp. I'm not going to go into all the details, but I did study the difference between I think it's the PWM and the MPPT controller. The bottom line was, even though it's more expensive for the MPPT controller, It's more efficient. You get like 97, 98% efficiency out of the panels and all that. That's all I needed to know. And I suggest, and what I've followed most of my life is, if I can't afford the best, I just wait until I can. Because I use this saying a lot. We don't hear it too much anymore. At least I don't. Is the quality is remembered long after the price is forgotten. So I, I I've always practiced this in my life of building. Go with the best quality you can get, and I believe the MPPT controller is good. There are other types, and I might choose a different one in the future, but I bought this as a kit from Renault G. Came with the controller, came with the panels, came with the wiring, which I'll show you in a minute, and it came with a few other things that were important. And so I just bought the whole set. I didn't have to go individually and get everything I needed. Okay, it was for convenience sake. I'm out here in the parking lot or out in the empty land, and I didn't want to have to mess with trying to get every little. And thank goodness I did. All at one time, I got everything I needed. And even then, they forgot to send a couple of legs for the panels. So even then, with the kit, it wasn't 100%. With the insert, where you insert the wiring for your photovoltaic panels, your battery, and then your load. And here is a gauge, is a wire that goes down to my battery box. And if the temperature of that sensor ever gets too hot, it'll automatically shut off the controller. I believe the two most important connections here is the battery plus and battery negative. You'll always want to hook up your battery first with the positive and the negative hooked up to the battery, from the controller to the battery, before you hook up the wiring from the positive and negative of the panels above. And these here are the load. You've got a couple of connections there where you can connect, let's say, a cigarette lighter type connection, so you can plug in your phone or your laptop, etc. there. So I think it's only limited to 12 volts. In fact, I'm sure of it. This is not an inverter, but and I would not, they don't recommend you connect your inverter to this point in case you have that thought in mind. This RS232 allows me to purchase an optional remote viewer, so I can look at the LCD screen and determine what's going on with the system. I might buy that remote monitor in the future, but my controller sits right there and I can see it just fine, and I really don't need another piece of equipment. But some people like that, and some people don't have their controller where they can see it readily, so that might be something you want to get. I think it's also remote control. I'm not sure, but go have a look at the next important items that you need. Alrighty, this is an on and off switch, and let me get you another picture of this. This is a little better picture, and let me see if I can't zoom in a little bit so you can see this. Yeah, there we go. See, this is the connections where you hook the leads, the positive and negative leads from your panel to this on-off switch. So if you ever want to work on your panel up on the roof or out in the yard, you can turn your system off. As a matter of fact, I haven't put that in yet. That's my project I'm going to work on maybe here today. You can see what the back of it looks like. This one is the output. This one's the input. These are the connectors you use. I recommend that you buy the proper tool to crimp the wire inside of here. Don't try to do it without the proper tools, folks. It's not worth it. Use the proper tool for the job, because this connection is important. and you want to get it right. Can't see it too well, but this is a piece of plywood that I had bought up in Kalispell, and it's going to be the mounting board for my entire control panel and access board. So you can see there's two holes drilled here, one for the input and one for the output, and then I'll come from this control switch, the on-off switch, over behind. I'm going to leave an inch space. Here you can see it a little better. This is a piece of plywood, and I'm going to leave an inch space behind the plywood in the wall of the RV, so I have a chase in which to run my wires. I'm going to bring it up here. I also bought this T-Tocus 50 amp circuit breaker trolling with manual reset, and I don't know, there it is. But they sent 15 amp. They sent 15 amp, so I have sent it back, and hopefully they're just going to send me the new one. I'm going to put a breaker between the control panel and the battery system. So see, that way I can turn it off from the panels on the roof, turn off the power going to the controller, and I can also turn off the power going from the controller to the batteries. I'd like to have my system isolated as much as possible, so when I work on it, I don't have to be concerned with a power surge. If you ever get jabbed by some voltage, you'll know why I'm doing it that way. It's a good practice. Not to mention, you can harm your system by not having it turned off at the appropriate time. Some of the equipment you need, some of the parts you need, these two coils of wire here are the cables to go from the panels to the controller, or in my case to this box here, on-off switch. These are the cables that go to from the controller to the battery. You see here, this is the positive lead that goes to the battery, and you'll notice I put it's a good idea to put red tape on all of your leads that are red, that are positive, and of course the negative leads are black. These I found out later I needed to buy, so I had to really wait for them to come in. These are called branch connectors. This is a three-way. You can connect 3 panels to the output, and I'll show you how that works later. I decided to run my system in parallel when I called the Renogy Tech. Why I asked him why they didn't include the branch connectors. He told me I could wire the system in series, and I wouldn't need that. But then I had a buddy here, Steve, who's already put in a solar system on his own. He told me, no, you don't want to go series, you want to go parallel, because the number of amps, the volts stays the same, and the amps from each panel will then make it to the controller, and because you have an MPPT controller, you can handle that. So there's a lot more to it than that. I also found out that if I would have hooked these panels in series, if I had a problem with the shade, which I will show you in a minute, I have a potential problem, but it's not really that bad. I found out by experience here. If you have a shade and you run in series, it interferes with the flow of energy going from the panels to the controller and ultimately to the batteries. You don't have that problem if you run in parallel. So I made the right choice. I want to thank my buddy Steve for that. We talked about connectors on last segment. This is the two entrances and access from the roof to the cabin that I bought. I bought this one first at Home Depot for a few dollars, and I bought one with 2 ends because I thought I was going to have to run panels from both both sides, because I was going to get a 400 amp, and I decided to buy 300 amp. So I realized I didn't need this anymore, and I ended up buying this and had to wait for it. This one has worked out real well, and I'll show you after it's installed on the roof. There's those connectors, branch connectors for 3-panel system. Here's the access to the roof. It's all waterproof, and I'll show you how Here we have some of the hardware that I was going to use, or I did use, to attach the solar panels to the roof. And I wanted them to be able to adjust, and you can see here that these do adjust. This length here is 28 inches, and this length here is 22 inches, and this one here is under a foot. The brace is under a foot. These come with wing nuts, and as you can see, easy handles. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about this. I wanted to go with adjustable, and I'll talk about that later on. But so the only brackets that I could find, and I thought about building my own, etc. And I thought about it quite a bit. This kind of held up the project for quite a while, almost a week probably. My trying to figure out how to build a rack that will hold my panel. I wanted my panels to be they're 47 inches long and 22 inches wide, and I wanted them to face the height facing toward the front of the vehicle. I wanted to put the panels just as you see them here, but up on the roof, so I get full exposure, all 3 panels. And after I talked to the tech at, I think it's Missouri Wind and Power, and they were very helpful, we talked about this, and I said, is this 28-inch length here going to fit on my 47-inch length panel? And we got the bottom line is the answer is no. So then I realized that I wasn't going to be able to mount the panels the way I wanted to. So it took quite a few more days of thinking to think about it. And I want to tell you what I ended up with so you don't have to think about it. After I saw on the internet, it had this short side, this shorter length of bracket connected to the short width of the panel. And I understand that every picture that I saw, that as far as I understand, this longer bracket here fit on the roof. So it's not the way you see it here. I tried to get this long bracket to fit on the 47-inch length of the solar panel, and it just wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to hold up under wind loads. It wasn't going to hold that panel up in a strong wind. So I didn't install the brackets that way. So there you can see that's the short length of that bracket, and the long length is on the roof itself. Here's a rear view of the left side of the panel as you face the front of the vehicle, and here's one on the right side. This again is the short length, and the long length of that bracket is on the roof itself. Looks like this. What I did on my layout is I took the cardboard box, I cut out a piece of cardboard at the same dimension as the panel. So I used this cardboard as the template. I didn't have to bring the panel up on the roof. I could lay the template out and put the brackets on the roof where I wanted them, and then use the cardboard template. Thank goodness the wind wasn't blowing, and lay that out. I get pretty good. You know, it's not going to be perfect, but it fits. And I noticed I would leave about a 1/16 to extra because the panels need to slide in with the brackets in. And once I did that on the second and third bracket, I was fine. Between the bracket and the roof, I put this insulation there. This is used by the plumbers. It's also used in insulation in the roofing. And I put caulking, Dicor, D-I-C-O-R, caulking. What happens is I would drill the hole, use a pick, use a punch the hole clean, and then put a bracket on, and this is what the bracket looks like. I've had to redo this section 3 times. I'm having problems today, but anyway, I don't want to go in. It takes a lot more work to do these videos than most people realize. The brackets, that bracket I bought was in a length maybe 4 feet long. It cost me about $6. It's got holes that are already pre-drilled. I cut them to the length I needed, as you could see. Put the bolts through the bracket first. What that does, it gives you a plate to keep the wind from just pulling those bolts right through the roof. On your vehicle, if you've got a newer one, you probably have some kind of a sheet metal goes across there. You can make sure you tap into that, and then you don't have to worry about it. My case, I had 1-inch thick roof insulation in there, not strong. Therefore, the brackets, I feel pretty confident this will hold. I've passed a lot of roofs in my career as a building contractor. I'm pretty sure this will hold and it will not leak. I don't know what to call this, but this is that roof access cover that I bought. It looks good. It's these two knobs here, these two nuts. They close in, makes it completely waterproof. And I'll show you how I got that on the roof here later. Let's move on to the connectors. These are the branch connectors, positive here, and this one is negative. You hook the 2 panels into these branch connectors. When I get my 3rd panel cables, I was short on the cables. I had to order some more cables because these weren't long enough, and I'll connect those all up, and I'll have a 3-panel system. As of right now, I got 2 panels, and it will charge my battery quite early in the morning if we've got enough sun and they're not spraying us with chemtrails, which they've been doing every day. The only day this past week they didn't spray was on Christmas Day. We finally got a nice day with some nice sunshine without the chemtrails. Here we have the system, and speaking of chemtrails, I'm pretty sure those are, that one there for sure is probably a chemtrail. They spray all the time down here, folks. Here we are. We go to put in a system. Put in the system costs us all kinds of money, and then our government is spraying us to block the sunshine. I go ahead and include a picture of the chemtrails here, and for some of you that don't believe me, they're spraying every day all around me, and that was a nice sunset, I believe there. But there's 3 panels up on the roof. I did get them all done, and they're working fine. This is the 3M very high, I forget what they call it, very high bond 3M tape that I use to attach that access cover to the roof. This is the, I forget what this is called. Wait a minute, maybe it's on Eternabond. I patched the roof in the front of the RV before I put the solar panels in with this 2-inch. This stuff, I've had it on now for over a year on other parts of the roof. This stuff works very well. I can recommend this. I don't know about this yet, but I'm pretty sure it will hold. And that's what I did before I put the panels on. I don't want no leaks up there and have to take everything off. While I was sitting out there in that empty lot, I decided to hook up everything. And I ran the wires from the solar panels inside to the controller, and that gave me a pretty good idea of how things had to be before I actually put the panels up on the roof. This is how it looks like inside of the mobile cabin. You got the controller on the wall. As you can see, I haven't put in the on-off switch yet. I got the wires running down to the battery here. I got the other. I'm sorry, these are the wires that run to the panels, and I haven't hooked them up yet, so that's why they're here like this. I do have the batteries hooked up already. You can't see it very well here, but the battery wires go behind the wall. There's a 1-inch space back there. Come out underneath and they go down here to the battery. The battery box is a little tight, but it does all fit. This is the water heater back here in the white wrap, insulated wrap. And then here's the inverter that I ended up, I ended up getting the inverter for free. I didn't mean to do it that way, but that's how it happens. Sometimes you win it. This is the battery number 1, battery number 2. Right here in the corner is a Perco switch. I can switch from one battery to the other when I run the Honda to create the power I need. Anyway, that's what I have set up inside the battery box. To recap, I use monocrystalline solar panels. I went with the rigid because I think they just last longer, they hold up better. They're much better when the heat. I use a MPPT controller. There's a lot of controls out there, so look, some of them have the plugs in them in the controller itself, where you can plug in your laptop or your phone to be charged, and you might want to check into that. I got a 1000 watt inverter. That way I can draw off the batteries as the sun is charging, or even later. I can draw off the batteries and charge my laptop and other items. Let me show you one more thing I find pretty handy. I found I forget what these batteries that are rechargeable. I forget nickel something hydrate. Can't remember everything anymore. I got too much stuff in the old hard drive. But anyway, I can charge these rechargeable batteries, which I've done many, many times. Then I can use them on other important items I need, other tools. And also with the solar system, I don't know what it is, but all the recharging stuff, the batteries and the laptop and the phone and everything, they just like the charge from the solar system for some reason better than they do from the Honda generator. Can't explain it. Maybe somebody out there knows electronics can do that. And I like the idea that this solar panel system keeps the batteries topped off. And I just think the whole system works together much better than a Honda. It takes longer to charge up my laptop, etc., with the Honda generator, even though I will say the phone does charge quicker on the Honda than it does on the solar system. Also, they're making so many tools now that use the 18 volt, 20 volt, and higher lithium batteries. So they're going towards lithium batteries, folks. They even put lithium batteries in the ISS. Yeah, I'm sure they did. But so if you have the funds, you have the means to buy lithium batteries, by all means, I recommend lithium batteries. Next on my list, one more thing, you're going to need something like this if you want to run your wires from wherever to a main bus bar. I'm going to cut this in half, one positive, one negative. These are very inexpensive, and they're big enough to accept a number 10 wire. My panel system was very close together. I didn't need the bigger wire. Thank goodness I didn't have the extra expense or the time to cut all the wires. You may have to do that depending on how far you go. So I'm going to call it there. I want to thank you for watching, and may the grace of God, our Father Yahweh, may His grace be upon us all, for we most certainly need it. See you.